Welcome back. You're listening to Tuttle Talk here on the Real Estate Radio Network. I am your host, Andy Tuttle, and I'm so excited to get into this next segment. We've got a full panel here, but the main special guest today that I've been teasing this whole show, one, we have Brian Cuban. I told you about him now. He's an attorney for First Amendment rights, but more of his passion and more of his story that we're talking about today here in Success Month, some of the challenges he's overcome in his own life, and his new book is called Shattered Image, My Triumph Over Body Dysmorphic Disorder. Guys don't talk about this. And this is I don't think it's a unique problem as we think it is because guys don't talk about it, but I'm so excited to hear from Brian, and now he's using this book and his story to encourage people all over the country, and I believe even sooner than later, and maybe even right now all over the world, into how that, and that's what I love about being in global space, with internet and everything, everyone can be encouraged with this.
Sure.
And so, Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here.
You bet. And Robb Kelly, I love this, man, because I'm a musician, not at your level, but I mean, studio musician here, Queen, Elton John, Beatles. Who else you played with?
Not the Beatles, David Bowie.
David Bowie?
Yes.
Man, he's my favorite. Hunky Dory, I love that album. Even more than Space Oddity and some of the later stuff, but that's just my own personal deal. But that's so awesome you got to play with David.
Thank you.
Yo, man, geez. Thank you for being here. And so Robb here, he's not here to talk about music, although we could. Yeah, he's here because he's struggled with alcoholism and what I found out from both of these guys, some steroid abuse early in their lives. But now Robb has been encouraging people through the Robb Kelly Recovery Group for over 20 years?
Over about 22 years, yes.
22 years.
Yes.
And what I understand is, I know you've worked with a lot of celebrities from what I understand, but 85% of your work or something is actually pro bono.
Yes, it is.
I cannot wait to get into your story and talk about some real issues here. And I've actually kept Matt Aycock here and Jimmy. Jimmy I kept here because he's a 100-pound weight loss story, but I know he's had some self-image issues early on. That's what's happened. So I'm interested in your questions and feedback too, because guys, this is critical stuff that we don't talk about. But if you want to get this year to be your best year yet, you got to take a real hard look in the mirror. And I think some of this encouragement could really do you some good. So I hope you feel that coming up. So Brian, I'd like to start with you.
Sure.
Man, really briefly, and I know the story's in the book, give us a brief synopsis of what people are going to find when they read this book.
Well, they're going to find that a lot of body image issues can come from bullying and relationships at home. I had a very difficult relationship with my mom. There was a lot of fat shaming at home, a lot of name calling over my weight as I got heavier, and I grew heavier into an obese child, going about 267 to around there by the time I was in junior high school.
How tall are you?
I was about 6'1".
Okay.
And so junior high, middle school, they call it here. And then the bullying started, and then I started getting bullied over my weight when I was in junior high and then in high school, and to the point where I was physically assaulted. I had kids make fun of me, tear my pants off, and throw them into the street. I was pantsed, like you've never been pantsed before. And all of that kind of developed into me seeing myself in a different way, seeing myself as kind of a fat, stupid kid. My mom would call me a dumb bunny, a fat pig. And these kids would call me fat in high school. And I was already a shy kid. I was middle child syndrome, a younger brother. And then, of course, people know my older brother, Mark. And so I was the middle one, shy. I just wanted acceptance. And it was kind of a perfect storm that came together that by the time I got into college, I developed anorexia. I started starving myself because to me, that equated to acceptance. I had to lose weight to be accepted, to be the kids who got the dates, to be the kid who got to go to the prom, that kissed a girl, that held a girl's hand. So to me, that was everything. And so I began to starve myself. And then by the end of my sophomore year in college, I discovered bulimia. And I stayed bulimic until I was 45 years old. And in that time frame, there was also, as I tried to change what I saw in the mirror, and that's body dysmorphic disorder, it never changes. Every time I looked in the mirror, I had this overwhelming feeling that I was this fat, stupid kid, no matter how thin I got. And I got down to about 178, within the space of about 6 months and you get the encouragement because it didn't look terrible because I was 6'1". But it's still, looks don't define an eating disorder. Weight doesn't necessarily define an eating disorder. And so I kept trying all these different things and went through what I call a behavior wheel, cycling through these destructive behaviors, trying to find that right mixture that would allow me to see a normal person in the mirror. There was I became an alcoholic by the time I was getting out of Penn State, moving from Penn State into law school. By the time I went to Pitt Law, I was a full-fledged raging alcoholic. As I came to Dallas, I discovered cocaine. I became a cocaine addict. And then I discovered steroids. I couldn't get thin enough, and it still looked the same. I decided I'm going to be a roid monster now. And I got huge, but I still saw this fat, stupid kid in the mirror. I almost lost my leg. I used dirty needles and ended up having a staph infection and came within a week of losing my leg.
So what did you end up, what finally turned it around for you?
I was in the parking lot, and there was a near-suicide attempt. I'm in the parking lot of Green Oak Psychiatric Facility here in Dallas for the second time. I was taken there for the second time. And the first time was after my near-suicide attempt. And I'm in the parking lot, and my girlfriend, who I had had a 2-day blackout and had just been unfaithful to, and we go back down there, sort of like running home to mama, the psychiatric facility. And I'm standing in that parking lot, and I'm thinking to myself, one, I'm not going to have another trip back here. I'll be dead.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to die. I realized I didn't want to die. And even worse than that, even scarier than that, what terrified me is that I thought I was about to lose my family. Our father raised us, Mark, Jeff, and I, to be very close. He pounded into us every day in stress. Brothers, brothers, brothers. Girlfriends may come and go. You hope they don't, but wives may come and go. But when push comes to shove, all you have is each other. And you need to stay in touch with each other no matter where your travels take you. You need to call each other. You need to stay close. He was the middle of three sons. And he stressed that to us. And we did. I mean, it's no accident that all these years later, we all live within Dallas, within a mile of each other.
Right.
And that kind of a karma of what he taught us following through. And standing there in that parking lot, I just knew, you want me to continue?
Yes.
Standing there in that parking lot, I just felt that I was at risk of losing that, because family may love you unconditionally, but there are limits on their willingness to see you destroy yourself if you're not going to help yourself. So they distance. They don't want some, coke addict, alcoholic, untreated bulimic around their kids. I wouldn't want it either, and they're going to distance. The phone call stopped. That terrified me. So that next day, that was April 8th, 2007. April 9th, 2007, I walked into my shrink, who had been seen for years, lying, not telling any of this, not telling about the eating disorders, the drug addiction. Oh, I'm depressed. Give me medication. Finally told him the truth. Finally sat down with my father, told my father the truth about what I'd been going through, and started taking these little steps into recovery, went into 12-step. And, because you have all these psychological issues, you have the eating disorder issues, but if you don't get the addictions under control, you can't deal with any of those.
That's right. You can't deal with those, but you finally did. You took some baby steps to do it.
Took some baby steps.
You write about it in the book. Shattered Image is the book. My Triumph Over Body Dysmorphic Disorder. You can pick it up. One, you can go to andytuttle.com. We're going to have it listed there. We're going to have it on the fan page. But, Brian, where else can they pick this up?
BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
Perfect. Go pick it up there. Coming up, we're going to get with Robb Kelly. You're going to get his story, and we're going to get some questions, good questions for both of these guys from our panel. Stay with us. And we're back with our great panel today. Brian Cuban just shared his story, and remember, you can pick up his book, and we'll have it posted, Shattered Image. It is a fantastic book on his road to recovery. And I think with all these stories, and I hear, and I know we're going to get from Robb too, it doesn't end on themselves. It's how they can help others and help you. So if you're listening and you're struggling, pick up this book and keep listening. We're with Robb Kelly now. He's a recovering alcoholic. He's been helping people recover through Robb Kelly Recovery Group for over 20 years. Robb, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good. Glad to have you here, man. So quickly, man, what's your story? What happened?
I've been drinking since the age of 9. I drank alcohol to feel the way you looked. You've really got to think about that for a second, but that's what I did. Started at 9, thrown onto a musical stage with the family at the age of 9. Pressure was phenomenal. So I took my first drink of alcohol at 9 on stage. The whole world lit up. My drinking really took off from there. I mean, I didn't stop drinking until I was 28.
So, and you drank heavily, and you didn't just stop at drinking, did you?
No, the drinking got worse and worse. Progressive illness, we say it is. And then I tried other stuff. I tried cocaine. I tried steroids. I tried anything that would get me out of me. And my life was amazing at the time. Don't get me wrong. we mentioned before, was a session player, Abbey Road, the famous Abbey Road. I mean, standing with guys that are A-list celebrities and playing with them. But deep down inside, I felt awful. I felt as if I didn't fit in. I felt as if, I wasn't good enough. That's always been a big one with any alcoholic or addict. What most people don't realize is, for me, alcohol's got very little to do with alcoholism. Take the alcohol away, you're still left with the alcoholic, still left with me. How do I treat me? How do I get me to a place where I'm happy and free of that bondage of self? Because I was in bondage all the time. After Abbey Road, I bought the $1 million house. I was driving the big Porsches and had girlfriends and stuff. But within like 9 or 10 months of that, I'd lost everything. I went from the big house on the hill to living on the streets. I was literally homeless for 12 months. One morning, I got down on my hands and knees after about 12 months being on the streets, and I cried from my belly. Not from here, but from my belly, a real hurt cry. I wasn't crying because I'd lost my wife and kids or house or millions of dollars. I was crying because the first time in my life I realized I could not stop drinking. And it devastated me. Absolutely devastated me. My life changed from then on. There's something like a spiritual thing happened to me. I got well after that. And then I set out and I made a pact that from now on I will help other people who struggle for this disease, this misunderstood disease. And most of the stuff we do at Robb Kelly Recovery Group is not only treating the actual patient and client, it's treating the families and educating people. People still think an alcoholic is somebody who can't stop drinking or somebody who drinks too much. That's not the case whatsoever. It's a brain disease is what I have. I'm different and bodily and differently mentally to my fellows, period. That's me. Once I take any sort of alcohol inside my body, I react differently to what you would react. And I will do that for the rest of my life. So these demons that I carry about, even though I look at peace today, I have like a plastic pair of handcuffs. I arrest the disease today, but I can quite easily break them. Very easily break them.
So how long have you been clean?
That I never announce because, and I'll tell you the reason why I don't, because whether you've got a day sober or 100 years sober, you can still help the other alcoholic. Right. And many people judge people because you've been sober for 20 years. He must be a good guy. Not always the case, So, let's say I've been sober a few days.
You're sober today.
I'm sober today, yes.
That's right. So if people want to, at the Recovery Group, they can, Robb Kelly Recovery Group, what is the website that they can go to get more information about that?
It's robbkelly.com with 2 B's, ROBBKELLY.com.
Perfect. And of course, you can go to andytuttle.com, get it on the Facebook page. You're going to find out more about that. But you're helping people with not just alcoholism. No,
we help an array of any sort of drug. We help any depression. We help alcoholism. We help anything that will send you into a spiral downwards with depression. We try and help. If we can't help, we're going to put you in touch with somebody who can help you.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Guys, any questions here before I.
No, I think it was very insightful. I'm glad to know that there's definitely a lot of avenues out there for people, and I just hope that if anyone is listening that does need that kind of help, they will pick up the book and reach out and go to the website and try to find ways to dig themselves out of whatever they're in.
And that's one thing that people won't do is pick up that phone, is because they still think it's a taboo subject. Well, part of my job is bringing that taboo away. Forget about the taboo subject, guys. There's over 25 million people in America suffering from my disease, but nobody knows anybody who drinks too much. Well, in actual fact, everybody knows somebody who's got a problem with drugs or alcohol.
That's both of these probably are in the taboo.
Yeah, no, we're both trying to break taboos. For me, it's more with the eating disorders. I mean, up to 25% of all those diagnosed with suffering from eating disorders are men. And, it's kind of funny. I'll give you I'll talk to a group and I'll say, well, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and they'll group, isn't everyone? I'm a recovering drug addict. My buddy's in rehab. I'm a recovering steroid addict. Legalize them. I was bulimic for 27 years. Every guy in the group takes a step backwards. Because people don't believe that guys get eating disorders, and it's a taboo subject. It's a taboo subject among men who are going through it. Because we're raised.
I would say more than alcohol, Brian.
Oh, absolutely. Because alcoholism has been mainstreamed.
Right.
Guys with eating disorders, we're raised. You're fighting 200. However long this country's been around, to say men are the hunters, men are the wage earners, men are leaders. And while gender roles have equalized quite a bit, the stereotypes and the gender stigma with with eating disorders and with men who suffer from eating disorders has not equalized at all. Karen Carpenter passed away in 1983. And we all know who Karen Carpenter is, right? And,
Yeah.
and she brought eating disorders and anorexia. She passed away from anorexia into the mainstream, but it also kind of solidified it, the gender stereotype as a woman's problem.
Right.
And it's not a woman's problem. It cuts across all demographics, sex, social demographics.
What's great about this is, if you do, because you're right, people, they get alcoholism, guys do, but they don't. They're like, whoa, nobody has this, but they do. If you are a little nervous, you don't know who to approach, guess what? You can read a book to give yourself some more confidence.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, to let people know, guys and women. I get more women read my book than guys, because guys are just not comfortable yet. I think I'm ahead of my time. But, you can read my book and know that you're not alone. There is hope.
That's right. And you can get that information. It's called Shattered Image, My Triumph Over Body Dysmorphic Disorder. That's going to be on the fan page and the website for you to connect. Robb Kelly Recovery Group. You can go to Robb Kelly, but you can also go to his website, but you can also, again, go to andytuttle.com. We'll put all the links there for you. You don't have to worry about it. Just get engaged. Know that there is help for you. Know that there's someone that understands you out there, and they can help you. And I'm so happy to have you guys on the show today, because sometimes you just need someone to talk to.
Exactly, yeah. Pick up the phone, speak to somebody, share it with a friend. Just don't isolate and take it personal. Just get out there, start speaking to people. You'd be surprised who knows somebody who's suffering.
Yeah, that's right. So, guys, these guys have gone through it. Reach out to them, reach out to me, and we'll be happy to connect you with them. You're listening to Tuttle Talk. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'd like to thank our special guests here, Brian Cuban and Robb Kelly. Thank you so much today for joining us. Also, my expert contributors, Coach Jimmy, always keeping me accountable, Matt Aycock, Dan Bradford, our production director, and, of course, Brian Moore, my show producer, and the whole family here at 660 AM The Answer. That's it for today's show. Remember, you can reach out to us, 469-319-0660. Go to andytuttle.com. Find us on Facebook, but connect to us. We're here for you. Thank you for listening to Tuttle Talk, where we're making financial intelligence a priority in the community. Have a great weekend.